sometimes abundance can be what opposite side of the same coin as scarcity. And then I read this book by Lynn Twist called The Soul of Money. This was a long time ago. This was 20 years ago at this point that I read this book, where she talks about how the opposite of scarcity is not abundance, it's sufficiency. Like, what is enough? And that has stuck with me for the last 20 years, where I'm like, yes, that's what I strive for, is what is enough. And unfortunately, capitalism, because unfortunately we live in late stage capitalism and have to run practices during it, capitalism wants you to go for abundance. They want you to go for more. But what is necessary is sufficiency. And when you're running a practice, a solo practice or like a small group practice, you need to know what enough looks like for you, so you can strive for that instead of constantly being like, oh, if I'm not growing, I'm dying, which is 100% false. I hate that adage.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. There's a lot of talk about the importance of having a mentor, and often enough, when I hear people say mentorship, what I think is being referred to really is a kind of extended course of study with somebody that you want to learn from. There's a place for that for sure. It's an essential aspect of learning the craft of our trade. But when I think of mentorship, I'm thinking of something else. It's a kind of relationship that threads weirdly through time. Mentors help you glimpse something in yourself that you don't yet recognize, but have the potential to do so. It's not that they see your future. Perhaps it is that they're reminded of something that helped them to find a vital path for themselves. Mentors are not the same as friends, but they share that same curious origin that catalyzes going from stranger to someone known. Mentorship relations don't run on a calendar or a schedule. They have their own organic rhythm and flow. There's not so much of a formal agreement as there is a conversation across time and experience that has its own vitality and its own measure. Mentors are different from advisors, and while they can also be teachers, there is something fundamentally different about them. I suspect they do indeed sense some kind of potential. There might even be an aspect of kinship involved, in that you remind them of something in themselves. They have an uncanny way of pointing out potentials in a way that have you considering paths that you hadn't thought of. Mentorship relationships lean more on serendipity than syllabi. It's entirely possible that they are in some way the voice of your future self, channeled back to a time to point out something potent in the moment that's worthy of consideration. A mentor is someone who offers up a discontiguous path. You might even wish you could unhear something that they said. They can be troublesome in the same way that oracles share their troublesome truths. You don't pay mentors with money. You pay with your life energy. You pay by following the hunch you received and unfold yourself in a direction you previously not considered. There's no gratification in being a mentor. It's not something you do as a way forward for yourself, nor is it about a financial exchange. It's more like how a thunderstorm disrupts a quiet afternoon, or how a long, soaking rain allows for the germination of dormant seeds. Mentors are strange relations. They inspire, but you end up learning lessons through your experience rather than their teaching. There's a weird connectivity that defies linearity. That relationship, it trades with a different currency. And there is nothing wrong with a long, ongoing teaching relationship. Those indeed are vital and essential to our development and skill. But don't confuse that with a mentor, because mentors, if you're lucky enough to bump into one, they're a different kind of critter. A business is both a way to create a livelihood of your own choosing and a mirror that will reflect back to you your shortcomings and mistaken ideas, as well as give you a canvas for your creativity. It's an opportunity to see what you're made of, and a crucible for distilling and refining your vision and capacity. As a new practitioner, Sydney Malawer took the usual advice on how to run an acupuncture practice and said, no thanks. We discussed that with her 3 years ago in episode 239. In this discussion, we hear how things have gone in the past few years. She's still at it, and if you're looking for some ideas on how to create the practice of your dreams, I would not say she has a blueprint, but she does have a perspective. We'll get into that in a moment. Stay with us. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. Blue Poppy, your new one-stop shop, has speedy shipping options on everything that you need for your clinic. It's Women's Health Month at Mayway Herbs. Check out their new website for learning resources on helping women with herbal medicine. Are you a creature of habit? How about making a change that helps your patients and the planet with AccuFast needles? And later in the show, raising your fees doesn't have to be a difficult process. Jane has helpful suggestions on making it easy and effective. And finally, have you considered that having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things that you can do? Julie Bear Don't Walk has, and she can help you do something about it too. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Picture this. Your clinic is buzzing with patients, and then you realize that you're down to your last box of needles. No need for panic, because Blue Poppy, your one-stop shop for all your acupuncture needs, they ship orders received before 3 p.m. on the same day. With a quick visit to Blue Poppy's website, you can order premium needles, herbal formulas, and that special Dr. Bob's oil that your patients love. Blue Poppy understands practitioners can't keep patients waiting. That's why they strive to get you what you need when you need it. From high-quality Chinese herbs and formulations to acupuncture supplies and clinical essentials, Blue Poppy has served practitioners for nearly 40 years with products that meet the highest of standards. Discover everything Blue Poppy has to offer by visiting www.bluepoppy.com, and don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lyle, president of Mayway Herbs. May is Women's Health Month, and as a women-owned and women-run business, we especially love how Chinese medicine can support wellness through every stage of a woman's life. So in this month's newsletter and podcast, we're covering topics like PMS, pregnancy, menopause, and osteoporosis. We'll share expert insights and effective treatment strategies you can put to good use in your clinic. Our Plumflower brand line includes herbal tea pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs, all of which you can find on Mayway.com. And where you can also find articles, videos, and other resources to support your practice. Since 1969, Mayway has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. In these challenging times, please know that we remain committed to keeping our products accessible and affordable so you can take care of yourself and your patients. As always, thank you for supporting Real Chinese Medicine.
Daily habits and routines feel comforting, familiar, easy, automatic. That's the power of repetition. You've worked out the kinks and can do it with your eyes closed. But what if you shook things up? What if you ditched the old routine and tried something new? Hi, I'm John Sten. I've practiced acupuncture for over 30 years, and together with my wife Kelly, we created the world's first eco-friendly acupuncture needle. The AccuFast earth-friendly needle system cuts your packaging waste by 60 to 90%, depending upon your needle type, speeds up your needling, gives you more control, and best of all, while you're healing patients, we plant a tree for every 2 boxes your clinic uses. Thousands of acupuncturists have already made the switch. In just the last year, they've helped plant over 16,000 trees. Since we started, that number has grown to over 50,000. So break the routine. Be the change. Visit AccuFastNeedles.com. Your patients and the planet will thank you.
Sydney Malawer, welcome to Qiological.
Thanks, Michael. It's so great to be here again. It's just so nice to see you. Yeah, it's been a bit.
It's good to see you too. We have audio, all you out there in radio land, no audio for you, but hey, audio is a better experience anyway. Who doesn't love a wonderfully told story where you just get to like listen, like around the campfire.
100%.
I know, it's so fun. Welcome back, actually. You were here like almost to the day, I do believe, 2 years ago.
Yeah, was that 2 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago. We were talking.
Yeah, no.
I think it was.
I think it was 2022. So it was 3 years ago because we're in 2025.
I'm no good with math. Well, whatever it was, time flies when you're having fun.
That's true.
If I was a better podcast host, I'd be able to say exact episode and the title, but it's back there somewhere. But here's the important thing. We're talking about business. We're talking about practices.
Mm-hmm.
And you had told me back then that, yes, I'm doing quite well with my practice, doing everything I was told that I shouldn't do by my practice management class. I'm like, I love it when people get away with that.
It's that rebel in you.
Like, what are you doing?
Oh, right now?
So you're still getting away with it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still doing things based on what is right for my practice and my patient population. Some of it is in line with what practice management says you should do, and some of it isn't.
Mm-hmm. So
it's just what works with my particular flavor.
Yeah. Tell us about your particular flavor.
Oh, man, where do I? So I'm trying to think back to 3 years. So 3 years ago, it was just me in my like one room private practice.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. And it was great. And it was great for a while. And then it got overwhelming, right? Because it grew bigger than me. And so.
Okay. So it got overwhelming because it was successful.
Yes. It got overwhelming because a lot of people were needing what I was giving, what I was giving. Right. So it's like.
Mm-hmm. In a crowded marketplace, by the way.
Supply demand, right?
In a crowded marketplace.
Yeah. Again, it's not, I don't think of it as crowded. It's so funny. Like people, like my partner is actually starting his own business right now. And there's like two ways you can think of a business. You can think of it as a competitive hierarchy or as an ecosystem. And for me in the Bay Area, like there's so many practitioners, but let me tell you, everyone has a therapist and an acupuncturist. Like it's just what you have in the Bay. So there's way more people than there are acupuncturists. So there's someone for everybody. So I think of it more as like an ecosystem where like certain people do this very well or deal with this personality very well or deal with this like these expectations really well. And then other people do other things well. So that's the way I think about it.
100%. I love that. And it makes so much sense. When I lived in Seattle, similar thing.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody had an acupuncturist. When they found out I was an acupuncturist, oh, let me tell you about my acupuncturist, right? Because a lot of people use it, and so there's more opportunity. But the thing that I love about this so much, Sydney, not just that it's an ecosystem, because look, we love our nature metaphors, but that there's a particular thing we do that nobody else does. There's a kind of work that is ours to do that might rhyme with what other people do, but it's uniquely ours. And just that mindset alone, that there's plenty out here, that will really change things.
It's from a like scarcity to a sufficiency mindset and not even an abundance. I don't like, it's funny because for a long time I didn't like the whole scarcity versus abundance metaphor because sometimes abundance can be the same, what opposite side of the same coin as scarcity. And then I read this book by Lynn Twist called The Soul of Money. This was a long time ago. This was like 20 years ago at this point that I read this book where she talks about how the opposite of scarcity is not abundance, it's sufficiency. Like what is enough? And that has stuck with me for the last 20 years where I'm like, yes, that's what I strive for is what is enough. And unfortunately, capitalism, because unfortunately we live in late stage capitalism and have to run practices during it. Capitalism wants you to go for abundance. They want you to go for more and more and more and more and more. But what is necessary is sufficiency. And when you're running a practice, a solo practice or like a small group practice, you need to know what enough looks like for you so you can strive for that instead of constantly being like, oh, if I'm not growing, I'm dying, which is 100% false. I hate that adage.
Okay. I want to dig into this for just a moment.
Yeah.
Because I keep hearing the term late stage capitalism. And like when I hear people say it, there's like this fuck you at the end of it. Like late stage capitalism, fuck you. There's a bit of an attitude. So I want to dig into it a little bit because I don't actually know what late stage capitalism means. It's a phrase that I hear. I guess I'm just not part of conversations like on what that's about. And so that's one thing. And then I want to come back to this thing of enoughness because I am so 100% with you that this is like a key that unlocks so much stagnation. But let's talk about capitalism for a moment because honestly, Sydney, and I'm just going to be like really clear about this, I'm a capitalist pig. I love that I live in a system where I can choose to do what I do. And a lot of systems don't allow for that. I knew doctors in China that were acupuncturists because this is what you were told to do. They gave people acupuncture. They never got it themselves, right? So let's dig into this for just a little bit. I think it's helpful.
So the big fallacy, I'm not an economist, right? This is just my very personal understanding. So caveat, like fact check me all you want. This is my perspective on it. I'm not claiming that it's anything based on like.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just asking for your point of view.
In-depth like research. But the opposite of capitalism is in communism, right? You can still have free markets. You can still have choice and not be in capitalism. Capitalism is based on keeping labor low and costs of resources low by exploiting others, right? Late stage capitalism is when those resources are drying out, right? Those resources are drying out, that those wages are no longer sufficing. And so the gap between the top 1% and everybody else is getting larger and larger. So these people who have put themselves in a position of power continue to accumulate wealth while everyone else does not, because it's it's by exploiting.
It's extractive.
The rest of everybody. So that is, and you see that in business, right? You see it in like, oh my God, I have to raise rates because I have to grow. Or all of my costs are ridiculous. Like in California, I don't know what happened, but like all of my insurance has gone up by 20% across the board, personal and professional, right? Because like, it's like all the insurance companies are like, oh, California with like the way that things are going and how they're against the government, they're going to be penalized. So like, I need to get mine, right? And there is a book that is currently out of print that I don't want to talk about too much in this particular venue. I will talk about it another time, I promise. But it's called Rockefeller Medicine Men. It is out of print, but you can get a copy for like $9.99, like a photocopy for $9.99 from Amazon, which is so ironic in so many ways. But it pretty much talks about how the conventional medical system is based off of curriculum that was written by Rockefeller and Carnegie. And that's why it de-emphasizes nutrition and emphasizes pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceuticals are a way for them to make more money. And it doesn't just talk about that. It talks about this concept of wholesale philanthropy, where it's actually this rich 1% that decides where money goes in social services and who gets those social services so that they can continue paying their workers less and less and less while they get their very basic needs met through social services. So I don't want to talk about it because first of all, it upsets me and overwhelms me. And the book itself, like I have to read it in small bites. And even my partner sometimes is like, Sydney, you have to stop reading that book.
Okay.
Because it overwhelms me. But yeah, so that's what I mean by late stage capitalism, right?
Got it.
I do believe in choice.
Okay. That's helpful. Just because, again, it's a phrase I hear a lot, but it's like I don't have anything to land it on. So yeah, this makes sense, especially in the traditional way of looking at, that competition between, owners and workers and all that. We're fortunate in that we kind of captain our own ship. Actually, we really captain our own ship. We get to decide what we do, how we do it, who we work with, how we want to be with other people.
Yeah.
All of that is like such a gift.
Not everyone recognizes that, though. Not a lot of people think that they can't choose because they will alienate people that otherwise would be a source of income for them. Or they can't choose and they have to take insurance because that's the only way to market yourself. Or, you know what I mean? So you and I recognize that we can choose, but not everyone does. I've talked to a lot of people like at CEUs and things, and we talk about it and we talk about our practices. And some people are like, man, I hate it. I hate having to take insurance, but like, I don't know how else to get my name out there. I feel like my rates are really low, but people aren't going to pay more. And so they actually feel trapped. So a lot of it is perspective, not just circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, which is in part why we're talking today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that thing with low rates, for example, it's so interesting. I mean, I think there's a whole lot that goes into it. If your rates are really low, actually, that's some people are going to appreciate that and they're going to come see you. But some people are going to look at that and go, not the doc for me.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, that's exactly the situation. And what's funny is that with like people sometimes keep their rates low because they're like, no one else is going to pay more. But what they don't realize is that sometimes they're getting people coming in that have more means, which is a whole other thing about counting other people's money, which we'll go into in a second, but that have more means, but come to you because their value attached to acupuncture is lower, right? They don't see it as healthcare. They see it as personal services, and they see it as it should be cheap personal services, not like spa personal services. So,
oh my goodness. I like to think of us as having a little more oomph than a spa service.
You'd be surprised though. Like it's other people's perspective. So I'll give you an example. I live in the Bay Area. There's a lot of people here who have a lot of money, right? And a lot of means. And one of the interesting things for me is that most of my patients are teachers, are like work in companies and like middle management, but not in like big tech companies. I think I have like maybe 2 patients out of 200 that actually work for tech companies.
Okay. Regular folk.
And they're regular folk. And my rates are not cheap. And there's a reason for that. Right? Because when I was a lot cheaper, because I started out, I don't know if I talked about this in the last episode. I should have re-listened to the last episode. Whatever. It's the beginning of the year. Holiday doesn't count.
Yeah. And now is now, then was then, now is now. So yeah.
Exactly. But like I started out really, really low and I had to dig myself out of that hole because I started out on the lower end of like everyone in my area, which was not sustainable. And for like the level of care I gave, I was like, oh no, I need to be higher. So it took me about 5 years to dig myself out of that hole. But now I feel like I'm like at a good place with my rates.
How did you dig yourself out?
I just raised my rates. I just continuously raised my rates and I raised it pretty significantly, but it was because I needed to for the sustainability of my practice.
Yes.
Not because I was trying to get more money out of people. But here's the thing, people pay them, right? I think I've lost like 2-3 patients over the years because of rate raises. And I'm talking about like one year I raised $15. Like I raised it aggressively because I needed to get to a point where I was sustainable financially. And it was fine when it was just me. I could keep it lower. The 15 raised when it wasn't just me, when I actually added more people to my practice, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
And now you're responsible for helping other people. That's right.
And now I'm responsible for the livelihood of other people, right? And that's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
And personally, my partner lost his job 6 months ago. And so not only was I responsible for other people, I'm now completely responsible for my household, which turns out my practice sustains us. Like, it's kind of beautiful. It sustains us in the Bay Area in a way where I'm not overworking or having to like gouge people or upsell or have all these like passive income streams, right? I didn't change a thing in my practice when he lost his job. And we not only were fine, we're thriving. Like, we didn't have to dip into savings. Obviously, we're not saving anymore with one income in the Bay Area, but like we were able to actually like live the life we were living before he lost his job with my practice.
And you're helping other people make their livelihood.
Exactly. So that's a whole, I forgot where we started with that conversation.
Well, we started with late stage capitalism.
Oh, that's true.
And here you are. Okay, so I'm going to push on this for a moment.
Yeah.
Again, I think I'm a capitalist pig, and I'm trying to be okay with it. You own a business. You have people working for you. Some people look at you and go, well, you're the boss. You're the man. You're the woman.
Yeah, but I do it with integrity. I pay my staff really well. Like, so one of the people that works with me, she's amazing. I love her so much. Hi, Stephanie, if you're listening to this, which you probably will. So I actually love my entire team, but Stephanie is amazing. And she is technically a business contractor, right? So she like established her own business and works with me. And I love that. I'm like, great. Like, that means you can do whatever you want. She doesn't. Like, this is her main job, but she has flexibility that way. And that's the only way you can actually hire contractors in the state of California, because you can't do independent contractors anymore. But if it's a business, you can then hire them as a contractor. It's kind of like the little loophole.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and I ran it by lawyers, I ran it by everybody, and that's the current understanding. So please, EDD, don't come after me. Anyway, so I give her for her private, so she does private and community, because we have a now mixed hybrid practice of private and community. And for her private sessions, I give her 60% of the patient rate, like what the patients pay. And that, like, when the average in the area is 34%.
Wow.
Right? So I pay her very well.
Double.
Yeah, I pay her very well. Our clinic assistant, Ari, who I love so dearly as well. Hi, Ari. So I paid them extremely well for the position. And it's because they contribute to me being able to like take time off. So yes, I did all the math, and I still pay from what I bring in, we still pay for the rent, utilities, growth, insurance, all of that. But at least with what my associates bring in, it covers my associates plus most of the clinic assistant. So it's still sustainable. So I'm not going, so while yes, I am like boss bitch, whatever you want to call, right? So I am the boss, but I take that as an honor and a responsibility, not as I can like, take advantage of my workers and make more money from them.
Yeah. My suspicion is if you take advantage, especially in this day and time, if you attempt to take advantage of people, you will be rewarded with disloyalty, thievery, loafing on the job. Oh, I just don't feel like coming to work today. I don't think it's so easy to get away with it anymore.
I don't know. You'd be surprised. Some people, like, because they rely on it, right? And I know that. Like, I know that, like, at the very least, my clinic assistant, like, they rely on what they make to survive, right? And I take that as a responsibility.
Yes, that's part of what goes into creating your practice. It's part of all the things you need to look at so that you can have this sustainable enterprise.
But that's the thing is, like, they might have worked somewhere else too, and they would keep that job because they need it to survive, right? So that's why people stay, is because they need it to survive because of, again, the whole late stage capitalism and creating caste systems without naming them caste systems, right? So like so yes, in this day and age, for people who have more choice, yeah, like you need to treat your workers well. But for people who don't have choice, you can treat them like whatever, and they need the paycheck, so they're going to keep doing it.
I just don't understand. Well, this is just maybe my character, because I've had some really lousy jobs in my life. I've had some awful jobs, terrible experiences. And I needed the money. I took the job because I needed the money. But what I mostly got out of that job was, I got to do better than this. I need to find something better. And it usually came down to me needing to make me better so that I could do something better. So my sense is for sure there are people that are out there to get everything, to squeeze everything they can out of you. For sure there are people like that. I've worked for them.
Mm-hmm, me too.
Not long.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So sometimes those really crappy jobs are like a really valuable life lesson in, I need to take a better look at what I'm doing.
Yeah, they can be for some people, and then some people don't.
Yeah.
It all depends on upbringing and where you're coming from. Like, you came from a family of entrepreneurs, right? So like
small business people.
Small business people.
I wouldn't say they were necessarily entrepreneurial. They were small business people. Because, in my grandparents' generation, like my grandparents and all the aunts and uncles of that generation, people didn't hire Jews where they lived.
Same. That's why I come from a family of small businesses too.
Yeah. They didn't hire people like us.
Right? So I saw both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw both. I saw my dad run a small business and my mom work for corporate. And my mom was miserable, right, in a lot of her jobs. Now she's in a great job and it works great for her. And it's because they value her and her skill set. And she's also like pushing retirement age, but her job is so straightforward that like she's not going to retire anytime soon. But yeah, no, I saw both. And so I'm grateful that I had that perspective where I saw my dad could like, he worked all the time, but then he was able to like adjust his schedule more than my mom could. And so I had those examples and those archetypes to work off of as I got older. And that gave me confidence, but not everyone does.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Like some people don't have that. And if they don't know that's an option, they don't know how to get out of a crappy situation.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic management software that honestly just makes running a practice easier. Let's dive into something that's never easy, but sometimes necessary: raising your fees. It can feel awkward, right? But here's a tip that can really help. Consider offering flexibility to your patients as you introduce the change. When patients face new fees, it's natural for them to feel uncertain or concerned. That's where flexibility can really make a difference. Offering options like a phased increase, suggesting a payment plan, or even taking a moment to talk things through can help to ease the transition. These thoughtful gestures show your patients that you're listening and care about them, which strengthens the trust you've worked so hard to build. If you're looking for more ideas on how to navigate these kinds of changes, head to frontdesk.jane.app and check out the article, How to Tell Clients You're Raising Your Fees. One last thing, if you're ready to give Jane a try, you can use the code CHIOLOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Yeah, which again, in some ways is why I'm so happy to talk to you, have you on the podcast today with this conversation. Because my sense is that there's plenty of folks in our profession, we're in the trade together. Maybe their parents only had jobs. They don't know anything other than, you have to get a job. And that whole idea of creating a business, being your own boss, like being responsible in a way that's very, very different than being responsible just to a boss. It's just a whole different worldview, really. I mean, beyond perspective, it's a whole different worldview.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And the thing I love about it is the limit is our imagination and our perception.
There's multiple levels of limits, right? Because there's also, as you were talking, I was thinking of, I met someone at a CEU who was telling me that she wanted to kind of like get out of the insurance game and like bet on herself and like do a small practice. But her husband was not supportive of that. He was like, no, you need to take insurance. It's the only way you're going to grow your business. Versus my partner was like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, do it.
Take the risk.
Yes.
Like do these things. And that was invaluable.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So that's another thing too, is like you have to surround yourself with people who can tell you can do it. I have a whole group of like other practitioners that I meet with regularly, either in person or like by text or phone call, that we just encourage each other, right? One of my best friends, she's about 25 minutes away. We text literally daily. And we're like, this is what we're thinking of. This is what we're going through. And we like kind of sit there and we're like, okay, these are risks you're taking, but like, you can do this. Here's evidence from the last 5-6 years of your practice that show that you can do this.
Yes.
Right? That this is worth the risk. Right? And she has a lot less room for error because she's the sole breadwinner in her family. I am now too, which was great to have her because I was like, ooh, this is an added stress I was not expecting. But like, we still encourage each other to do it. And so we have this community. And then my like partner, my like husband, I guess, I hate the word husband, but anyway, he is extremely supportive emotionally, right? More than financially. She's like, yeah, take that risk, do that.
Yeah. Honey, I believe in you.
Bet on yourself. Exactly.
Bet on yourself. I believe in you.
If you don't have those people around you, it's really hard. It's really hard to take those risks. So first thing you're going to do is, if you want to start your own practice and don't know how, surround yourself with a community that can lift you up and help you navigate risk.
Yes, it is navigable. It helps first if you recognize it. Ooh, this is risky. Okay. It doesn't mean don't do it. It means pay attention.
No, for sure. I mean, when I was thinking about making my first hire, I was freaking out, right? And I was like, and I talked to Victor's my partner. I'm like, Victor, I don't know, like, this is a big risk, like, because I really want to pay people well. That was my big thing. I was like, I refuse to be exploitive, right? So I'm like, no, I need to pay people well. Do I have the room to do this? And he's like, think about it's an experiment and some lessons are more expensive than others, but like figure out what your budget is for that expense, figure out how you're going to determine if it's worth it or not, and go from there. And that was so helpful. And it turns out my first hire was not a good situation and I had to let them go after 6 weeks. So it was a risk and it didn't pay off. And then Stephanie, who now works for me, was coming on at the same time and she's worked out wonderfully. And she's been working with me for 2 years.
Oh, man.
Like as a practitioner, but she was shadowing before that.
Sydney, I love your phrasing of this. It's an experiment. It's not forever. It's not a permanent condition. It's an experiment. We're going to run the experiment. We're going to see what happens. Oh, guess what? This one didn't work. The great thing about experiments is that when, whatever answer you get from it, you can learn something from it, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that before you started recording with Mazen Alkafachi, and that's how he approaches patient care, right? He's like, okay, we're going to try this out with the best knowledge I have. And if it doesn't work, he sits down, he's like, okay, why didn't that work? What's going on now? And then pivots approach, and then many times gets to a positive outcome. And it's the same thing with your business.
Yes, 100%. And there's something else that I think comes out of this, which is not to be diminished in any way, which is that every time we step up and we take a risk and we push the edge of what we think is possible, we become a little more resilient. If it works out well, like pat on the back, gold star. Hey, glad I did that. If it doesn't work out, oh, what do I need to watch out for? Either way, you win.
100%. And resilience is the thing that is most important, not just like I talk about it with my patients all the time because my specialties are autoimmunity and dermatology. Those are not quick fixes ever, right? I've had maybe...
Right. No guarantee.
No, I've had 2 people in the last 5 years that after one treatment got significantly better, but everyone else takes weeks. I'm talking about weeks, months, even years. So, and I always try and set the expectation that we're looking for resilience, right? Because your body is going to go into flare and we want to make it more resilient so that the frequency and intensity of those flares lessens. And it's the same with business, right? With running your business is I remember I was having this conversation the other day where I remember I had this one patient who I really, really liked and just wasn't getting good results. And then she canceled because she's like, you're great, Sydney, but like, I'm not getting the results I need. And I remember feeling like I super failed them. And I like was on the floor crying, right? Now, when that happens, because it does every now and then, I'm like, I totally understand and support you. Here are my recommendations moving forward. Please check back in. I just want to see how you're doing. I don't fall to the floor and cry. I still feel that pang of like, I feel like I failed this person, even though I know it's not just me. But like, I now am more resilient to it and it doesn't impact my nervous system the way that it used to.
Yeah. Some of this is just sort of time in the boat, that you have more experience with practice and you see more things and recognize, yeah, it doesn't always work out and it doesn't throw you away the way that it used to. I think my suspicion is we all grow through that kind of a phase. We do the best we can and we realize that, well, the best we can is all we can. And to hold some, compassion for ourselves or just recognition. Yeah, that one just didn't work.
Yeah.
But it takes going through those to be able to go through it with a calm heart.
Yeah, there's no other way around it. You can't read about it and be prepared. You can only experience it. It's literally the only way. So the only way to get to that point is to do it and to start.
And whether that's
which is scary.
Practice of medicine or the practice of business.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because when I because a lot of people are like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to do my own practice. It comes with like all of these disadvantages. Like I have to do X, Y, Z, and I'll be working all the time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, every job has crap you can take and crap you can't. Every job has crap. You just have to decide which crap is easier for you to handle, right? And so for me, running my own practice and not working for somebody else is the crap I can handle. And I had one of my friend that I was talking about before, the one that lives 25 minutes away. We were talking one day, and she was an executive coach for 25 years. So I get like kind of like free friend coaching sometimes. But she once, this is very early in my practice, before we had recorded our podcast, I was deciding to like take a job in addition to my private practice. And she like put her coaching hat on because she had her strong opinions. And then she had put her coaching hat on, and she was like, Sydney, because the reason why is because I was getting burnt out because I cared so much about my patients and the communication was overwhelming me because like patients would email me between sessions and I would like feel compelled to answer every single email within 5 minutes. So it was just, it like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it's that's just who I am. I have now boundaries set in place, aka I hired my clinic assistant to help with that. And they set the boundaries for me. But one of the things that Rebecca, this friend I'm talking about, said to me, she's like, Sydney, you're going to put that give a damn energy either towards your patients or towards your boss. The issue with when you put it towards your boss is that it's going to become it's going to be contentious. Versus with your patients, it's not. So you're not going to solve your problem by taking a job.
Wow.
She's like, you just need to know that there's going to be another element in between that's going to make you feel like a little bit more contentious. And that blew my mind because she knows me very well, right? That blew my mind. And I was like, no, duh, I can't work for anybody else. Because that's the story of my life throughout my entire career. The number one comment I got at all my jobs was, you were such a pain in the ass, but you were so productive we couldn't get rid of you.
Yeah, thank
you. Right? So I'm like, oh, okay. And so then I never looked for another job again. And I was like, nope, just going to go full-time into private practice, not even entertain. I was full-time in private practice, but like not even entertain the idea of getting a second job.
Yeah, not an option.
Not an option.
You know, I love this piece about this sticky wicket part, right? I've got to respond and I got to be in touch and I got to help. I love the word that you bring up, contentious. There's this contentious part of you. Okay, you can use that to hone your practice in ways and be better at that, like learn to use that superpower, or you can use it against the boss that you're going to have, because you ain't going through life without that contentious piece, because that contentious piece, that's part of the secret sauce.
Mm-hmm. That's my fire.
That's your fire. Yes, that's your fire. And I suspect even in very watery people, we all got some fire, right? Like, how do you handle the fire without getting crispy?
You figure out how to like ameliorate it, right? So honestly, one of the reasons why I hired Ari, who's our clinic assistant, this was a year and a half ago. That was my technically third hire, but like effectively second in terms of like team members. And one of the major reasons was I was seeing 24 to 30 patients a week, and 50% of them were trying to email me in between. And I was still running single room at this time. So that meant I was working 60 hours just on patient care. And I was like, I can't do this.
Oh my God. No, you can't do that for long.
I'm burnt to a crisp. And I tried setting my own boundaries around it, but I have a compulsion. So instead, I hired Ari, who, by the way, so they worked as a patient coordinator in UCSF during the height of the pandemic. So they like know how to handle a lot of demanding, scared people at one time in a truly chaotic environment. So this job is a piece of cake compared to that. But I brought them in because I'm like, I can't do this on my own. I can't set these boundaries on my own.
I love it.
And I need your help.
I love it.
And so they came in and they do that beautifully because because I can't help it. I'm the business owner. I read all the emails that are sent out through the like shared clinic email. I read them, and when Ari does it, I'm just like chef's kiss, because some of them are like really complicated patients that really demand a lot of my time, and Ari just does this like ninja move in words to make them feel heard while also protecting my time. And so that was a big realization for me, is I was like, I can't set these boundaries on my own.
This is so important. I think this is really critical. Finding this kind of thing in yourself. This is a moment that could make you or break you, right? Like, I just can't do it. And maybe you walk away from it, or you get overwhelmed and you stay in overwhelm, or you shut something down so that you can get through it. But instead, you bring someone in, you get bigger, you get to keep all of that fire, but now you have a pericardium to assist you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Ari's my pericardium. I like that. Ari, you're my pericardium.
Yeah? Yeah. So, I mean, I've seen this in my practice. I've certainly seen it in doing the podcast over the years. I come up against something and it's like, uh-oh, my previous solution is now my problem. And if I don't fix it, I can't keep doing this. And it usually requires keeping that initial fire and getting bigger.
It's more that then hiring Ari just freed up space to like really double down in the effectiveness of my patient care. Because then when I was with my patients, right? I wasn't thinking about the email from this like very, trying to think of a good word for it. Like, this was a very anxious patient that would email me daily. And I remember I would like glance at my email between patients and I'd see an email from her and my heart would drop. And then I'd go back in the room and I like wasn't present for the patient that was in front of me. And that's kind of when I realized I'm like, oh, I need help, because like it was taking away, that fire was being directed to something that was not productive. And so now I have space to, like actually spend more time on my care plans, right? I'm so much more present with my patients when they're in front of me, right? I can think through strategic planning for my practice instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to react, which I'm good at reacting, but sometimes you need a little bit of strategy. I was able to teach. I taught a 10-week course in the master's program in the Oakland School on dermatology. And it was like I had space to do that. Now, I'm never going to teach in a master's program again because that was a very intense experience. But I had the space to do that because I invested in bringing somebody in to help me with that. So I directed my fire elsewhere.
Yeah. So growing our practices in this way actually creates more space for the things that are important.
Yes.
Or it can, if you've done it right, if you put it together right.
100%.
Yeah. It could go the other way. Oh, now I'm really stressed out because it's not working. But as long as it's worked.
Oh, when it's not the right fit, it consumes you. That's one thing too, is like when the person that you've hired is not the right fit, it will consume your every fiber of your being.
I guess that's how you know it's not a good fit.
And so, yeah, 100%. And like the best thing you can do is cut the cord. Even if you think, oh, I'm going to try and adapt. I really tried. Like, we're going to try and adapt to make this a better environment for them. But there's just a point where it's like, it's not a good fit. And it might be that they might be the right fit as a person or a practitioner, but you get them at a time that doesn't work because they're having family struggles or they just graduated and they're insecure or something. So yeah. And sometimes the only way you know that is when they start working for you. Mm-hmm. I wish there was like some special sauce that you could figure out before they came in. But there isn't. You do your best. And that's why the adage that I do like from like more capitalist understanding is hire slow, fire fast. Because you need to, like, if it's not working, do both of you a favor and just cut the cord.
Yeah. So, and maybe I'm just pushing a little too hard, but again, I'm a capitalist pig. Is that a capitalist thing or is that a kind human heart thing?
It can be both.
Are you a capitalist?
No, I don't know what I am. I'm a humanist. I don't know. I'm not. It's not just it is a capitalist thing being like, you don't want to waste your resources on someone. But if your perspective is, I want to be kind to both me and this other person and give them a chance to go thrive somewhere else, it's intention. It's not just the action itself, because the adage comes from a very capitalist, like, don't waste your resources on human resources that don't work, when the way I'm perceiving it is, and the way I'm intending to use it is, it's not working, both of you aren't thriving, cut the cord and let them thrive somewhere else.
Yeah, it's between the two. But then again, I'm...
That's okay. We'll agree to disagree in this case, Michael.
No, I'm standing up for being a capitalist.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's okay.
You know?
Yeah, there's capitalism as a whole, like in and of itself, from a denotation perspective, is not a bad thing. It's the way that it has been applied and the connotation of it in this day and age where the negative comes from, right? Just like socialism from a denotation standpoint is a beautiful fairness, but that's just not the way the world works, and that's not the way it's applied. Both of them, when applied to keep certain people in control and other people not, is a negative, right? And that's unfortunately how it's mostly applied.
Well, anything taken to an extreme.
Exactly.
We know this from just looking at yin and yang.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Is going to be a problem. Too much yin, like nothing's going to happen. Too much yang, nothing to root it. And, I think in some ways, and it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek to say I'm a capitalist, because I've spent a lot of my life thinking, oh, those capitalist bastards. But the piece about being able to create something and being able to be remunerated with your profits so that you get something out of your effort, I think it's a terrific idea. It's incredibly motivating. And I've also found that if I try to be extractive with what I'm doing, number one, I don't like myself that much. And number two, it's not good for any relationship.
No, not at all.
Being cultivative, finding, I think about nature. I think about doing acupuncture. Like some kind of valuable mutual exchange is so beneficial. Why would you want to aim at anything else?
My goal, one of the reasons why my patients trust me is because my goal is to get them to not need me and not need what I sell them, aka acupuncture and herbs. And a lot of times you can see them getting like worried, right? That like, oh, like she says I need to be on this formula because like it's going to make her more money and it's more expensive. And I literally tell them, I'm like, try for 2 weeks without the formula and let's see how you do. 9 times out of 10, they come back and they're like, oh no, I need the formula, right? And then so allowing them space to see is very helpful, right? And also for patients, like I love being able to be like, I don't need to see you next week. You're doing really well. So let's have you come in 2 weeks, right? And so what I do with people, with all my patients, is I book them out pretty far as I can on their care plans, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or once a month or once every 6 weeks. I like booking out as far as I can because I tell them all the time it's so much easier to subtract than add to my schedule. And they trust me because they see me subtracting their appointments as they get better.
Yeah.
Right. And then they see if they haven't scheduled it and they get worse, they're like, oh, I can't get in to see you. I'm like, yeah, because it's really hard to add.
Yeah. I do something similar. I like to book people out a certain amount of time and I say, look, it's here if you need it. If you don't need it, great, just cancel it. Somebody will be really happy to get that appointment. It'll be fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I like your thought about it's easier to subtract than to add. And again, it does show people, I'm here to help you. I like you, but I like it better when I don't have to see you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. I love it when I see a patient I haven't seen in like 6 weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I miss you, but I'm glad I miss you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I hope, and one of the things I always say is like, I hope the reason I haven't seen you has been for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like those are my favorite, and those are my favorite interactions because like then they've made progress. They're more resilient as we come back to that word. They like, and then they love coming in and they feel really good. And honestly, like that's the best feeling is when you've seen someone who was really struggling all of a sudden only come see you once every 6 weeks and they're doing great.
Yeah, it's cool.
There's literally nothing better than that.
Imagine this. A patient walks into your clinic. They're carrying more than the pain in their body. There's a story there. A history woven with the stress of long days, the ache of things unsaid, and the quiet longing for something to shift. You listen, not just with your ears, but with your hands, your intuition, your heart. It's not just about needles or a formula. It's about connection. Understanding the threads that tie us together, mind, body, and spirit. That is where Golden Flower Chinese herbs comes in. Rooted in tradition and crafted with care, their formulas are more than herbs. They're a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern practice. Every bottle, a quiet partner in your work, helping you to meet your patients where they are. Because healing isn't just about treating symptoms. It's about creating trust, cultivating belonging, and helping someone feel truly seen. Golden Flower Chinese Herbs, your partner in practice and connection, where tradition meets care. I want to come back to confidence for a moment. We were talking about confidence like way earlier in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so often, especially when people are starting out, they don't have much confidence. I would go so far as to say, when you're starting out, you shouldn't have much confidence, because confidence comes from the resilience, the experience. Confidence comes later, I think. It doesn't come in the beginning. It comes later. It's a byproduct.
In the beginning, you need bravery. Yeah. In the beginning, you need bravery, not confidence.
You need bravery. You need courage in the beginning. What's courage and bravery look like? I mean, sometimes I know when I was younger, like hearing that word, like, well, you have to be brave. And I'm like, brave? Like, what does that even mean?
It means that you're really scared and you do it anyway. It means that you're really scared to tell this patient, you've never treated this before. But you tell them, I've never treated this before, but I'm going to hit the books. I'm going to talk to people smarter than me. I'm going to talk to people with more experience than me. And then I'll come back with a plan of action. That is very scary. Saying, I don't know, when you are a healthcare provider in the United States, especially, I don't know about other countries, but especially in the United States, for you to say, I don't know, is so terrifying, because you are taught that as a medical provider, you should know everything. When your patients are so grateful when you say, I don't know. And if they aren't, they have the wrong expectations.
Say more about that.
So I'll talk about a particular patient. So I have a patient who she's extremely complex. She has like mast cell activation syndrome. It to the point where when she was in her 30s, she was bound to a walker because she couldn't walk on her own because of the severity of this MCAS. So she has like mast cell activation syndrome. She has like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which they tend to come together. She has like a lot of chronic fatigue, a lot of things going on. And in her 20-year journey, she always had practitioners that would dismiss her. They'd be like, oh, you're just tired because, here's an SSRI because you're depressed, right? And it wasn't until she found this specialist in South Bay, I think it was, as she found this specialist who was I think he's an immunologist, and he literally sat her down, looked at her list of symptoms, read her entire chart, and goes to her, is like, I have no idea what's going on with you, so we're going to experiment. And she was so relieved that someone was like, okay, yeah, I am weird. I am an anomaly, and someone's actually going to pay attention instead of just run down a script and dismiss my symptoms. And this was an MD with 25 years experience who was like, I have zero idea of what's going on with you. And they experimented and they found pharmaceuticals that worked with her. And then when she started getting care from me after this, right? And one of the things in the care for her is that she does so much better with both. She does so much better with pharmaceuticals and with Chinese medicine. She kind of needs both. And when she goes through flares, which she inevitably does, we help dig her out of them, and she digs out of them faster, and she goes into them less frequently, because that's the point, right, of care. And I even told her, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on with you. Here are my like differential diagnoses and hypothesis. We're going to try them and see how you react. And she was like, thank you. Right. But it takes courage, because you're scared. You're scared to be like, oh my God, I actually don't know what's going on with you.
I think it's such a superpower though. And again, I think it helps to have some time in the boat, some time in clinic. So many people come to us and nobody knows, right? They'll read off the list of what they've done and what the doctors have done and this and that. And it's clear that nobody knows. And so when you can say that in front of your patient, they're like, oh my God, this person gets me. I've actually been heard and seen.
And they trust you, right? I have a story that we started talking about, remember, before.
Yeah, it builds trust. It doesn't take it away.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's your story?
Remember, we were talking about this right before, and you're like, stop, we have to record that. I had a patient, she has Graves' disease, and she started seeing me. She was doing so well. She was a very interesting case. She had Graves' disease for 7 years. She had been on methimazole, which is the go-to pharmaceutical for it, for a long time. And it was at the point where the methimazole had kind of stopped working, and her MD was like, her endocrinologist was like, you just need to nuke your thyroid now, right? We need to do radioactive iodine. You're done. This is it. And she's like, I'd like to explore other options before I go there. And her doctor was actually mad at her. There's a whole story to that afterwards. But anyway, so she came to me, and apparently she did, by the way, jumping to the end, she did extremely well. She went into remission because her antibodies had been through the roof. And it turns out she's probably celiac, because the second she took out gluten, and then we worked on nervous system regulation, everything evened out, including her antibodies and her TSH and free T3, free T4. So this was beautiful. It took about 9 months, but we got there.
Wow, 9 months. Only 9 months.
And about only 9 months. She was quick. Again, not everyone's that quick. But actually, Graves responds really quickly. But we'll get into that. We can do that in a different podcast, because I love treating Graves' disease. But we'll get into that in a second. But apparently, halfway through working with her, she goes, I'm really glad I chose you. I'm like, cool. She's like, yeah, I talked to 11 other practitioners before coming to see you. I was like, 11? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, do you mind me asking, why do you choose to work with me? She's like, because you're the only one that didn't guarantee you were going to cure my Graves' disease. Because 11 other practitioners apparently told her, and this was non-Western medical. These were functional medicine, other acupuncturists, chiropractor, whatever. And apparently they all said that they could cure her Graves' disease, which first of all is illegal. You can't say you can cure anything as an acupuncturist. Secondly, what? This is someone who had Graves' disease for 7 years. And you're saying, oh yeah, I can cure that? No, you can't. You can probably help them get into remission if you know what you're doing, but don't guarantee that. But yeah, so back to integrity.
That's powerful.
And courage to have integrity.
Yeah. Integrity and courage.
And it was the courage to have integrity, where I was like, yeah, I can't guarantee that this is going to go away, but we're going to do our best. Because her goal was to preserve her thyroid. And I haven't seen her in a while because she's doing really well. She was like, yeah, I'm good. She was doing well for almost a year while I was still seeing her. And then she was a nursing student and needed to do other things, which I appreciated. But yeah, it was wild to think that 11 other people had told her that they would cure her Graves' disease.
I find that worrisome, actually.
It's very worrisome. It's extremely disconcerting.
And I can see how it would be very difficult to have a practice if you're making those kind of claims and failing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Maybe then you do need insurance because then you're still going to get paid regardless of your results.
Yeah. And the hard part was something like Graves. So there's one of the things that I did in my previous job was I worked with brand archetypes, right? So I used Jungian archetype theory and applied it to branding. And one of the things that always hits home for me is using the archetype that is closest to your consciousness, because technically we have all of the archetypes in our subconscious. And when people go for this hero archetype, I'm going to save you in medicine, when they go to an extreme with it, it takes agency away from the patients themselves. And when you're dealing with something as complex and multisystemic as Graves' disease or any autoimmune condition, you cannot save the person, because your solution is going to be max 20% of the overall solution to them going into remission. Because the other 80% is their habits, their environment, their genetics.
So for the hero archetype, maybe better to work in an ER.
Yeah, or take insurance with pain, right? Because that's the thing. You can get rid of pain pretty freaking quickly with acupuncture, right? The one thing is that what I've noticed with more, because I get all the sensies, I get all the sensitive patients, is that if they've had the more heroic, like trigger point acupuncture previously, their pain might go away, but it'll come back within 48 hours with a vengeance, because they are very sensitive and they need their body to do it themselves. So you need to slowly give them messages with like gentle moxa and a little bit of Tui Na and like very gentle needling, and then their tissues release on their own because they don't deal with the heroic measures very well.
I love the idea of archetypes. I've always kind of liked that. C.G. Jung was kind of a hero of mine, even though I don't really understand Jungian psychology at all. I remember reading some of his books, but like when I listen to Jungian psychologists, I get lost really quick. But the idea of archetypes resonates for me. It's like, I can kind of play with that. Your thought here of the heroic type practitioner, and there's a place for them, but there's a place where that's going to work against you. I think we all have aspects that work for us or work against us. That's why we're made up of all these different parts, right?
Light side and shadow side, I like to say.
Like what?
Light side and shadow side, I like to say.
Side and shadow side.
There's a light side to the archetype and a shadow side to the archetype.
Oh, light side. Yeah. Oh, and a shadow side. Right. Light and shadow. Sorry, I didn't hear that correctly.
That's okay.
So if we're working with these kind of more complex patients, do you find that you like bring up different aspects within yourself to work with? Is there a name for the archetype that can work with the sensitive people?
So is there a name for the archetype? So I can tell you what my archetypes are because I have a primary and a secondary. Just because I've worked with this for so long, I know how to use a primary and secondary. But my primary archetype is caregiver and my secondary archetype is magician.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's actually, I think it's the opposite for me. I can't remember. Anyway, I use them both.
All right.
Okay.
Use them both. Yeah. They're both on the team.
What?
They're both on the team.
Yes. So the caregiver is about helping and supporting and caring, right? And so that is just a natural thing I do. Hence my whole need boundaries around like answering people's emails, right?
Hence Ari has a job.
Yeah, because thank you, Ari, for taking care of the shadow side of my caregiver archetype, right? But the magician is the one that does what works. And the difference between a magician and a sage is a sage likes to know exactly what works and why and like go towards finding truth, not always taking into account the patient experience, right? Sages are about data. They're not so much about the human experience. Versus magicians are like, I don't care what works, we're going to do it all. So my care plans are like 13 pages long. They give every aspect of what can happen during your care, including lifestyle and habit adjustments that you can make. And I'm like, do this all bring this in whenever, don't bring it in one by one, right? We're not going to just do acupuncture and see how you do. We're not going to just do herbs and see how you do. We're not going to just do lifestyle adjustments or nutritional adjustments to see how you do. We're going to do all of them at the same time because that's how you're going to get better. And if you want to figure out what works, we can reverse engineer it and start taking it out.
That is a very helpful distinction.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really helpful distinction. I'm just thinking about how I work in clinic these days. I used to lean more on magician. We're just going to figure this thing out. We got all these things, and now I really do. It's like, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this one thing. We're going to see how that message is received.
Yeah. And that is a little bit more sage than magician versus, yeah, because my goal at the end because my primary is caregiver, because the reason why I lean on the magician is because I want them to feel better. I'm like, I don't care how you get there. I just want you to feel better.
How do people go about figuring out their
archetypes?
Archetype. This could be such a helpful thing. I mean, it's always useful, I think, for ourselves to know how we tick.
100%. I love all of that. Mm-hmm.
We're such troublesome critters because we don't even know how we tick. Like I know I tick and I like this and I don't like that, or I have trouble with this or I'm good at that. But like to be able to have a capacity to have like names for these parts and to evoke them and bring them up as they're needed, it seems like it'd be super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I love all of those types of tests. I love archetype theory. I love human design. I love astrology. I love Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, you name it, because I find that the truth is somewhere in the Venn diagram of all of that. But for archetype theory, I find it really helpful from a business standpoint, right? Because what archetype theory helps you do is it helps maintain consistency between how you market yourself and the patient experience.
Oh, wow.
Because if that is not consistent, if you market yourself as a hero and then you like
Show up as a sage.
they come in and you're more of a sage, like the people that came in because you're a hero are going to be sorely disappointed.
Oh, yes.
Right? So it helps create that consistency between how you market yourself and how you present yourself and the ultimate patient experience.
Yes. And it's not a bullshit thing. It's not a groovy like, hey, here's a hook to bring you in.
It's not a technique.
It's not a technique. It's a warning. Here's a warning label. This is what you're going to get when you come to see me.
Yeah. It's a smell. Like, have you ever had a food that smells different than it tastes? And you're like, what was this? This is weird.
Yeah, you're expecting congruence, but you're not getting it.
Exactly. It's the same thing. And so it permeates every part of your practice. It doesn't just permeate your marketing. It permeates like for example, I'll give an example of how it works. So I brought Salumas into my practice, right? Because I do dermatology and we do a lot of autoimmune joint pain. And it took me a long time to be like, okay, I'm going to get a Saluma. So I got one and tried it out and it actually works great. So a lot of people, when they bring Salumas into their practice, they upcharge for it. And so I at first was like, okay, I'm going to upcharge for it. So like, because it was expensive, right? So I'm like, okay, like in the patient, like I'll be like, okay, like I'll add it as an extra charge. And I would tell patients that, and then it would kind of be like, they would need consent for it. And the whole time when I was thinking about upcharging it, it felt wrong. Like so wrong to me. Because then I went back.
Yeah, the caregiver didn't like that, did she?
What?
The caregiver didn't like that.
No, the magician didn't. Because the magician is like, you do what works. Doesn't matter what it is.
Oh.
So like, I don't charge for moxa, right? I don't charge for needles versus moxa versus cupping versus gua sha versus, contact needling. I don't. I do what works for that patient in that room. And so that helped me make the decision not to upcharge for the Saluma. And I don't. And it feels right to me because that is the archetype.
And now you're congruent with yourself.
I'm congruent with my archetype for my business particularly.
Yeah.
So that's to show like how it permeates every part of your practice, not just your like outward marketing. Okay.
I'm very struck by this, Sydney, because I've run my business too for a long time. There's often those places where I need to do something different. I'm not sure how to do what I need to get done, right? I'm here, I need to get to there. Maybe that involves more money or more patients, or maybe just me less time with certain patients, right? I mean, there's all kinds of ways to mix it up in a business. And just thinking about, I got a couple of archetypes here that I lean on. I should bring them in and consult them on this and see what they have to say.
100%. It's exactly how it should be used.
Cool.
Yeah. So in terms of how to find your archetype, one way is you can read about the archetypes. There's plenty on branding archetypes now because they've done like a lot of case studies with Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola uses branding archetypes.
Oh, do they?
So yeah, they're the innocent. They're about joy and appreciating the moment. And it's why they've had such a big market share compared to Pepsi, because Pepsi keeps changing their archetype. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah.
Sydney, you just said that. I'm totally getting chills down my entire back. That makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they have leaned on that forever.
Forever. And they've never wavered. Never.
A couple years ago, we were in Atlanta. We were taking a little spring break. And we're in Atlanta. We went to the Coca-Cola Museum because it's, like, let's go check this out.
One in Rome. Yeah.
There were parts of it, I'm walking through it, and I am just weeping. I am not kidding you. I'm looking at certain ads or like the, buy a world of Coke that, had that thing running. There were exhibits in there, and I am weeping with connection and love. It was, and one part of me is like, man, they are playing me like a fiddle, right? But the other piece was, and I'm so happy to have these emotions.
Yeah. That's archetype. That's Jungian archetype theory. That is what it does. It evokes a visceral, unconscious emotion when faced with it, because it's based off of characters and stories from all across the world, all different religions, all different regions. and boils them down into these 12 main archetypes that show up time and time again in folklore. And when you tap into that in your practice, you create a visceral response in the people that see you. And it's not just them being like, because a lot of people are worried about archetype theorics. They're like, well, what if I alienate other people that could be good patients? And I'm like, no. What's going to happen is you're going to hit something in them and they're going to be like, you know what? This would be perfect for my daughter.
Oh.
This would be amazing for my grandpa. This would so fit my best friend, right? And that is the power of archetype theory, and it's not disingenuous. It is extremely genuine.
Incredibly connective. I love that piece. This would be perfect for my daughter. Not for me, but for my kid. Oh, yeah. Wow. We're back to where we started. We just took a long walk around the block of, and now the thought just went right out of my mind.
One thing, though, is I am working on a quiz that I used in a job from 15 years ago on branding archetypes. So I'm working on like an actual quiz that people can take. I have one that I can send to you. That's a Google, it's a Google survey. And it works. It's just like I have to do back end stuff to get the results and then email you what your results are. But yeah, it's, so there are quizzes that exist out there. I haven't found ones that I particularly like. I really like this one that was from a previous job that like, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to check that out. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. That thing about being authentic. That thing about that you can have a practice in a very busy community and there's plenty of room for the right people.
100%.
That's what I was going to say. And that's everywhere.
Yeah, it's true. In small towns too.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Are you kidding? I mean, small towns, it's easy.
Yeah. I mean, because if you're the only one.
There's also the scarcity of practitioners.
Yeah.
There's that piece too. But here's the other piece, because I kind of live in a town where there's a scarcity of practitioners. There are certain people not right for me.
Exactly. You're not right for everyone.
And even though I could see a ton of them, that's not a great use of my time or theirs.
Mm-mm. I still refer out. I do free consults still, which some people are like, why do you do free consults? Because I'm like 100% booked. But I'm like, no, I want to do free consults. I want to make sure that if they come in, they're the right fit for us.
Yeah.
And I still refer out. I mean, one day I remember I did 4 free consults one day and I referred every single person out because none of them fit for what we could provide. And I have a great network of practitioners here. And I'm not ashamed to like, I don't feel a sense of competition. If anything, I like very generously will just like refer out. And I even have them listed on my website. Like I have a whole referrals page and it's all acupuncturists in the area that either do the same thing I do or different and would just be better fits.
I can imagine a new patient coming to your website, looking at, and here's a bunch of great resources for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at it and going, but that's your competition. Huh. I wonder what this woman's made out of.
Possibly. Yeah, I don't know. It's just...
You know, I mean, that's a really generous thing. That demonstrates, well, your caring piece, for sure. But usually practitioners don't list other practitioners on their website. So that says something about you.
Maybe. They do. I will say I get mixed results or like mixed reactions from people when I refer them out. Most of them are positive. Like I'll tell you about this one woman who, she came to me, she's perimenopausal, has all of the symptoms, plus she's on like a GLP-1 medication. So I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do herbs. Like I can't figure this out. She's on every single pharmaceutical. She's worked with countless naturopaths, other acupuncturists, on like these perimenopausal symptoms that are driving her crazy. And she tells me her story. She takes about 10 minutes to like tell me everything that's going on with her. And I just tell her, I'm like, listen, you're a beautifully complicated case. I don't think I'm the right fit for you because I'm not familiar with all of these medications. I have done well for those symptoms when people are unmedicated. But with all these medications, there's a level of complication I don't understand. So I'm going to refer you to Deshaun Moore, who's down the street, who's like who I refer all my complicated women's health issues to. And she was silent. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to like yell and be like, why won't you take me? And she just goes, thank you. Like a relief. She's like, you are the first person in the last 5 years that has been like, you know what? You would be better fit somewhere else. She's like, that's such a great way to run a business. And I was kind of taken aback. So I was like, oh, I thought, because I had a reaction a year prior where it was someone going through something similar who was, her main thing was insomnia. And in talking to her for 10 minutes, it was very obvious that the insomnia was emotional. And for some reason, I don't do very, very well with insomnia as a primary concern when there's a huge unidentified emotional component. You need someone who's more like esoteric. So I tried to send her to this person down the street who does better with that. She was so upset. And she was like, why? I just can't understand why you won't take me as a patient. And I was like, no, I'm doing this for your benefit, right? Not just mine. Like, I'm doing this so that, because if you work with me and don't get results, you're going to be resentful. And she was so angry when she hung up. So I don't even know if she went to the other person. But so it's very mixed reactions, but you can't let other people's reactions and other people's relationship with themselves, with money, with anything dictate how you run your practice.
We could just type that up, frame it, put it on the wall. That's really great advice. And rhymes a little bit too with the, you know what, this is complicated. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's a courageous honesty that it takes to do both of those things.
Yeah.
It's fun having a business, isn't it?
I like it. I get excited by it, but it's because that's just my personality. Mm-hmm. I like it. I like being able to make these decisions and do these little experiments, and some of them don't work out. Like I mean, we're kind of out of time, but like, so one of the things that happened in my practice is I opened a community room. Mm-hmm. And the reason why was because I had patients, because I was in year 3, and I had patients who had been coming for 3 years and didn't need acupuncture every week, not even every month. They needed it every 6 weeks. But what I was noticing is when they would go to that level, they would either stagnate in progress or start backtracking. And I was like, they need community acupuncture in between. And then I would send them to community clinics, and it was a mixed bag because you don't always get the practitioners that you need, because again, I have a lot of sensees. So actually there's one, love this patient. She can only handle dark blue serins in LI11, otherwise she does pass out. And so with me, she can handle more, but like in community style. So I literally gave a box of dark blue serins to my friend who works at a community clinic down the street. I was like, this is for this patient. Please use these so she could get continued care. But that I couldn't do that for everybody, and some people needed moxa. So I wound up opening a community room in the practice, and it was great. And it was for those patients, right? It was for those patients that had made a lot of progress, didn't need full private acupuncture all the time, but they definitely needed like touch points in between with some needles to modulate the immune system and some moxa.
Yeah, there's the magician at work again.
Yeah, so do what works. And some moxa. So they start, and it was great. It was running so smoothly. It was so successful. And then we're like, okay, let's open it up to the general public. Nothing. I'm talking about, we've gotten like so we opened it in August of 2023. And I think we've had like 8 or 9 people from the general public actually come in.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
And none of them, like I think one of them or 2 of them came for return visits. It's only the patients that were like, hey, this is part of your care plan, that continuously go. And it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating to see that. And I don't know why that is. Like, I actually truly am baffled. And honestly, I kind of like it being mostly our patients who these practitioners know, like the ones working in the community, because I don't work in the community lounge. Again, boundaries. Because if I work the community shift, I will do a full analysis, like herbal formula, all the things, and I'll be exhausted by the end of the shift. So even like Stephanie, the person that works with me, she's like, Sydney, you cannot treat in the community room.
That's right. Yeah. My shop.
She's like, you don't have the right boundaries. So Stephanie does.
Yeah.
And then another person, Sam, and we had 2 other people do shifts when I thought I was opening to the community, and they wound up naturally leaving, and I just didn't replace them because we didn't have the patients because of the Yeah, because the community room was not attracting the general public.
Because it's not a community room for the general public. It's a community room.
Yeah, I think just
for the people that are getting a particular kind of care with the vision that your magician and your caregiver have for how care is supposed to go.
Exactly. And so now I didn't know that, right? It was an experiment and it wound up failing. And I was like, okay, great. Now I have an understanding. And so guess what we do? We have the community shift 2 days a week. Eventually we might need to go to 3. And then I use it as a flex room. So I put all these, like, because I got the very high quality chairs, like the human touch chairs. I found them all for secondhand on Facebook Marketplace. If anybody needs to find something on Facebook Marketplace, you consult me because I'm very good at it. But so we put casters on them so we can move them and then put a shoji screen and then set up a bed so we can use it as a flex room if we need to. And that has been working great.
It's fun to run your own experiments.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's fun.
It's fun.
Failed experiment and we learned so much from it.
I'm reluctant to say failed. It's such a loaded word. I mean, did it fail? Yeah, it failed. Well, we got it.
It took its own direction.
We got different data points than we expected.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you could say it failed, but like, what a great experiment to run, and how wonderful to be able to look at the results and go, that's interesting. We didn't expect that. Okay. Now we know more about the terrain that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fun. Wow. Well, I should probably let you go. This has been delightful.
Yes.
As it always is when sitting down and chatting with you.
Yeah, same.
I want to take that archetype exam.
Yes, I will resend it to you. I think I sent it to you.
You did a while back.
And someone else on your team. Yeah, but just take it. And then I'll give you my spiel on it.
Okay.
When the results come in.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Sydney, thanks so much.
Thank you, Michael.
I took Sydney's archetype personality survey and very quickly realized I could not answer the questions the same for my acupuncture practice as I would for my podcast business. That right there, it was eye-opening. So I took it twice. And indeed, these two pursuits are fueled by different archetypical energies. This got me thinking about how in practicing medicine, there are systems that look to see what a person's constitution is as a way to suss out their basic character. You know what I'm talking about. We all have a tendency, a groove, a go-to strategy for interacting with the world. Someone's a water type or a fire type. For sure, we can look at the spiral transformation of the 5 phases, but now I'm realizing that it's the context that's more vital to consider than ever. Because who you are is in part generated by the context of what you're doing. We already know this from the medicine that we practice. The influence of the outer environment is not neutral. It has an effect. Maybe instead of looking inward for change, manipulating the outer environment so as to potentiate internal resources just might be a way to get some problems solved. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.